3 years ago, Dave Thomas sustained a brain injury while playing rugby. A fierce tackle caused a severe whiplash effect as Dave fell backwards, forcing his brain forward against his skull. At the time, Dave had no idea how serious his injury was and the huge impact it would go on to have on his career and his relationships. I'm delighted that Dave has joined us to tell us more. Dave, please join us on the stage, and please join me in welcoming Dave.
A bit disappointed that wasn't the Proclaimers, given the...
We'll get that for you next time. Now, Dave, I mean, it's been a tough journey for you. As a rugby correspondent myself, someone who's spent a lot of time, I understand a lot of the challenges facing rugby and other head injury sports which involve collisions. But can you tell us a little bit about your story? What's your history of brain injury? What's your journey?
So my journey started quite young in terms of brain injuries and rugby. I was a teenager. I think my competitiveness probably outweighed my ability, and this side of the room probably can't see what my nose looks like, but I think the physical scars are fairly obvious, but the internal ones, the psychological, I suppose, trauma off the back of brain injuries is something that I just didn't take seriously, like most people back then playing rugby. The first brain injury I ever had, I was unconscious for nearly an hour. I can hear all the rumours around the room. And yet it's going to be an even bigger groan in a minute, because I went to hospital, I was kept in for observation overnight, I was out the next day, and I was back playing rugby the following week. And that's how it was, until people like you came along, Sam, to be honest. I've lost count of the number of concussions and brain injuries I've had in my career. I genuinely couldn't tell you, but I've obviously had 2 or 3 fairly traumatic ones, most recently the one you mentioned a few years ago.
Yep. And I mean, obviously, again, something I've realised over the last 10 years or so working in this space is just how much families play a role here in supporting you. And I know Helen, who's here today, has been an amazing support for you. I mean, can you say a few words about what she's done to keep you?
I think she should probably stand up first, just so everyone
Helen,
can
can
see.
you give
This
us
is
a
my
wave
wonderful
there?
wife, Helen. I mean, obviously, I've talked to quite a lot of people in the room and the people on our table, and the stories of partners supporting victims and people whose partners are staying at home to look after their son at the moment. And I'm fairly sure I speak for everybody in the room when I say a massive thank you to everybody who's supported those of us who've been through something like this. Obviously, I've got to hold this bit together, but, I wouldn't be here without Helen. So, thanks for it.
And you found a pretty unusual way to say thank you to her, didn't you?
Yeah, I didn't know this bit was going to be on here. But yeah. Do I have to tell you about it? Or
I would like to hear a little bit about it.
You don't want me to sing it, do you? No, look, listen, one of my issues, one of my symptoms of brain injury is I have very poor disinhibition, which I'm sure lots of people can relate to. And so I thought it was
for a rugby player.
Exactly. So I thought it was a really good idea to organise a flash mob and basically sing to Helen in a really busy restaurant with a full brass band. So yeah.
Are we going to have a little look at that, I think, aren't we?
Jesus.
Strictly girl, you don't play around. Very much very up in my mind. Meditation's a forte, each and every day. Can't get you out of my mind. I think about you, girl, all the time. I like the way you work it.
So some free entertainment there for you as well.
Well, Mark Ullman wasn't able to join us, but we had Dave Thomas instead. But Dave, that was fantastic. I mean, you hold a pretty good note there, don't you? Mr. Calling? Maybe not. Now, Dave, I mean, just can you say a little bit about, you know, how you also see that perhaps rugby might have changed at the moment as well? And I mean, do you see a difference in the way that rugby you were playing as a semi-professional back in the mid to late 90s? Do you think there's been a cultural change there?
I think there's more awareness, and I think that's a good thing, and there are at least protocols in place. I think you and I both know there's still a lot more work needs to be done. I think, try not to be too political on it, but I think certain people have still got their head buried in the sand a little bit. So.
Yeah, fair enough. But Dave, you know, you're a fantastic ambassador for people with head injuries, and I mean, what you've continued to do has been really amazing. Now, in the last, you're going to tell us about this incredible walk that you did from John O'Groats to Land's End with your daughter Willow, I'm right in saying, 4 years old at the time?
Yep, that's right.
Can you talk to us a little bit about what this experience was like, and you know, what drove you to do it, and you know, the role that Willow played as well?
So Willow was kind of the motivation in some ways. During lockdown, as I'm sure everyone remembers, you were only allowed outside of your house for 1 hour of the day, and basically we started walking together. I was in a very low place, trying to come to terms with what I'd been through and try to understand it a little bit more and think about the future. And I was very low one day, and she basically said to me, "What makes you happy, Daddy?" And I said, "You know, going for walks with you." So she said, "Let's go for a walk." And so obviously I do everything by extreme. So we walked 1,234 miles, a very serendipitous number. Willow joined me for about 500 miles of that, the vast majority of which she did actually walk. If not, she was on my back. Yeah, it took me 59 days. I wild camped all the way up. And I was just saying to, I don't mind me pointing you out there, Dudley, but I was just saying to Dudley on our table that what fascinated me so much was I've had so few conversations about brain injuries in my immediate family and friends growing up. And then doing this walk, when people found out the reason I was doing it, I don't think I went a single day without someone wanting to share their story or a family member or themselves. And it just made me realize how prevalent this is and how many people have suffered. And so that was the other real motivation. It wasn't just the money raised. It was, I suppose, selfishly as well, if I'm honest. It was a physical journey as a bit of a metaphor for me for, like, you know, the psychological and traumatic journey that I've been on as well.
That's amazing. I mean, I can't get my 5-year-old daughter to walk 500 metres, let alone 500 miles. So what an amazing little girl Willow sounds. I'm no doubt inheriting her mum.
So it's all her mum.
Well, inheriting her mum's talents, no doubt. But I'm sure you played a huge role as well. But I mean, what a fantastic thing to do. I mean, why Headway? Why did you decide that Headway was the charity that you'd want to raise the money for?
So again, I really want to stress how ignorant I was about brain injuries before, even after it had happened to me. I was telling you earlier, of the first one I had when I was 16, unsurprisingly, a week later, I was diagnosed with depression after being a very happy child, and nobody put two and two together. No one ever mentioned a brain injury. It just wasn't something that I knew anything about. I always used to put a brave face on everything. You always want to be a warrior in sport and fight through that stuff. And it was only when I finally accepted there was a problem, and, you know, again, after my amazing wife, who'd stood by me through a lot of really difficult times, when I really realized I needed to do something, I realized I had no idea where to turn. And then I found Headway. And the resources and the support were literally life-saving. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Headway and for the support of my family. So.
Well, that's an amazing testament to a fantastic charity and the very reason we're all here today. Dave, well said. Amazing words. Now, just one little word about an amazing little girl, Willow. I mean, you had your moments in the sun, I suppose. At the end, you completed this amazing walk.
Thankfully, not the sun. Well, it was GMB, yeah.
in the shade, but the limelight perhaps. And but Willow was with you as well, wasn't she? After you'd raised this £15,000 and completed this walk, and she stole the limelight a little bit, didn't she?
She did. We got a last-minute call from Good Morning Britain saying, "Can you basically finish in the next hour?" And I was about 5 miles away, so she basically chucked it on my shoulder, and we legged it so that they could record a little piece. And yeah, I mean, anyone who's ever met a 4-year-old knows that you don't stand a chance in comparison.
Don't work with children and animals. Well, I think we're going to have a little look at that clip now, aren't we?
Now, when Dave Thomas found out he had a brain injury from playing rugby, he sank into a deep depression. The only thing that kept him going was walks with his little girl, Willow. Now he and the 4-year-old have just finished the ultimate trek from Land's End to John O'Groats, raising money for the brain injury charity Headway.
Just getting out there in nature, moving and making sure that you have time to process things is incredibly therapeutic. I genuinely feel a completely different person.
I love walking with Daddy because I saw a cow poo.
Hey, it's all about the little things in life, isn't it? Dave, I can tell you, has now raised over £15,000 for Headway. So congratulations to him and Willow. Back to you.
Fantastic. Brilliant charity as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, what a fantastic interview. What a lovely way to end as well. To Dave Thomas, a huge round of applause. To Helen and to Willow and to everyone who supported them on their journey. Many thanks indeed.